Hey there, MVPDays fans. Welcome to the Essential PowerShell Reports for Azure Stack HCI. Before we get started, I hope everyone is really enjoying the show. Just a quick reminder that our experts are here. We're live with you right now. Make sure that you take and you join us in the live chat, which you'll see on the right-hand side. Always have these questions. Will these sessions be available post? Yes, absolutely. They'll be up on my YouTube channel. I'll share a link with that towards the end of the session. And without further ado, let's get started with this session here. Okay, so why did I want to do this session, first of all, on the Essential PowerShell Reports for Azure Stack HCI? It's because there's certain pieces that are missing to operationalize production deployment. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Dave Kawula. I'm a Microsoft MVP. You can follow me on Twitter at Dave Kawula. You can always email me if you have any questions. Yes, that is actually a picture of me dating all the way back to circa 1997. And you'll notice that, yes, I am a Canadian because that is a beautiful Molson Canadian that you're seeing right in that picture. You can follow our blog on checkyourlogs.net. And of course, all of these PowerShell reports are available on various GitHub repositories, and mine specifically is just /dkawula. Okay, so on with some of the free stuff here. So I always like to give stuff away during these sessions, and we've actually authored 3 Server 2019 books. If you follow that link in the URL, I'll just give you a second to take a screenshot of that. And what it'll do is it will take and knock 100% of the price off of our books. We are charging for our books now. We used to just give them all away for free. And the reason that we charge for them is that all the proceeds go into our MVPDays Scholarship Fund. And I'm so pleased to announce for everybody that's listening today, we were able to give away our first scholarship. It was a $10,000 4-year scholarship to a young gentleman based out of Vancouver. And he's going to be going to university this year. And we're so pleased that we're able to help him out. He was actually ranked in the top 10 in biology students in the entire country. So pleased with that. And we want to really continue our mission and this journey of supporting young individuals in their goals and in their technology adventures. So that is why we're charging now. And we still give them away for free. So if you feel like donating, feel free. But if not, I hope you enjoy the content as part of this session. So when we take a look at operational readiness for Azure Stack HCI, one of the things that we have to think about is what happens beyond day 1 of the install. Initially you're going to run some scripts, you're going to do some deployments, things are going to be up and running. And what I like to tell my customers is, the initial deployment's probably going to take somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 4 weeks by the time you get all your hardware ordered and everything set up and deployed. And I'm not saying it takes 4 weeks to deploy Azure Stack HCI. I'm just saying that a reality of a real project, it takes time to get things into production. What do you do beyond that? So the world that I live in is kind of the world of, month 2 to month 60. So, the second month of something put into production to, the very last month trailing out at the end of 5 years before we're going to either decommission it or, kind of find a different solution. And so what are the things that we have to do to operationalize our production teams to get them ready to look after the solution? Because there's certain event logs that you want to watch. There's certain activities that could happen on a daily basis that could be indicators of bad things going on. So I like to call those our morning coffee reports. We like to automate those with PowerShell, and that's the big one that we're going to focus on here today as kind of our morning coffee report that we use for pretty much all of our production deployments. The second PowerShell script that we're going to focus on here for this session is looking at how to set up as-built configurations for Azure Stack HCI. So we've got some cool ones there that are parcel part of the community. And then the last one is just a quick script that you should take a look at for tweaking your deduplication schedules for your Azure Stack HCI farms. So are we interested in moving on? Absolutely. Let's see what's next here. So what are the contents that you should include in your morning coffee report? And these are just some examples that we use in ours. By no means is this the full list of everything that you could possibly do. We try to just summarize all the critical things that you want to be looking at. So with any major storage platform, you want to be looking at your drive health. And you want to report to see that if you're having any failing drives or if anything's going on inside of the infrastructure. So the first two that we always want to look at is physical drive health and storage enclosure health, because we want to know if anything's going on there. Now, interestingly enough, the NVMe devices actually don't show up as storage enclosures inside of these reports, and they don't actually show up also on the all flash NVMe enclosures. They don't show up in Failover Manager either as enclosures, just based on the way that the NVMe bus works. And so the next thing that we'll want to take a look at is some deduplication events, especially if you're using deduplication in production. Any of you that follow us on the Stored Spaces Direct Slack channel know that we've had some production issues with deduplication in the past. So I want to show you some of the events that you can watch for that will kind of be some triggers to look for in regards to deduplication. REFS is another event log that we want to take a look at. And you'll see all of these events showing up inside of the script. So you can actually, if you wanted to morph this into your own script or do what you want with it, I'll give you the GitHub link. Feel free to have any comments that you want. And if you want to fork off of our work that we've done, feel free. This is by all means a community script and available for everyone here today. So REFS actually is an interesting one for me because it shows some interesting statistics on the REFS drivers. So that's cool. The other piece of this is that in talks with Microsoft, we're looking at working on trying to get some of these pieces included into Windows Admin Center. I've already had some conversations with Cosmos and some of the team members on this, just because inside of Windows Admin Center, we don't report on all of what I pull out with the PowerShell script right now. So it's kind of a best of both scenarios where we use Windows Admin Center for a nice front-end UI and GUI. Hopefully Windows Admin Center will provide us some email output capabilities in the future for looking at some of this. But as it stands right now, we do all of this with PowerShell. Okay, so the REFS events. The next one that I look at is some Hyper-V replica status. One of the things I love doing with Storage Spaces standalone configurations, not just Storage Spaces Direct, is I love to configure those as our Hyper-V replica targets, and we use the same general technology just with Storage Spaces Local on an individual non-clustered system. And so we can turn on some Hyper-V replica status, and we're a big Veeam fan as well, so we use Veeam for most of our backup and replication solutions, and so I can get some nice reporting there. I want to take a look at the health of the storage pools overall and virtual disks, just to make sure that we're not throwing any errors, any storage spaces events. And probably the two most important ones that we have are reporting information directly on the cluster. And the most important one is you want to be checking data integrity events, both operational and crash recovery, because in the event that something is going wrong inside of your Azure Stack HCI cluster, you're going to start throwing events both in Server 2016 as well as Server 2019 into those respective event logs. And to make the long story short, if you're seeing a bunch of stuff in the data integrity crash recovery logs, you want to be looking at your cluster. You're having some power failures, you're having some hardware infrastructure problems. It's typically a tailing indicator that you're going to be having problems or in the near future if you're not already having them today. So when I come in as a consultant, one of the very first logs that I check on a brand new storage space, it's direct cluster, Azure Stack HCI now, is that data integrity crash recovery log. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do is we want to have this report set up so that we can email it out to ourselves daily. Now, how we do this in production is we sign up with our Azure account, and we can actually work with our clients. They can use their Azure tenant as well. But we like to use the SendGrid service because it is free for sending and generating these daily health reports to our operational teams. We don't like to point this to our internal Exchange or mail servers or rely on mail daemons to get those reports out. They've just worked really well for us with SendGrid via the Microsoft Azure services. So I highly recommend that. And you'll see some of the sample configurations inside of the script itself. Now, in the future, some of the things that I've got on my to-do list is to configure some additional reports that are based on this that will send triggered emailed alerts. So, for example, when that report runs, if we detect that there's failed drives or there's issues with the storage pool, or there's that data integrity crash recovery event that's showing up all of a sudden, send a high importance email out to the team saying, hey guys, listen, cluster X is obviously about to have some problems. Please go check into this. And like I mentioned earlier, hopefully we can get some of these pieces integrated into Windows Admin Center in the future. And if all of that happens and we can automate all of this through Windows Admin Center, and you can kind of set up your daily coffee, morning coffee report, and you don't need my script anymore, then kind of mission accomplished. But like I said, for right now, this is definitely a requirement for production. Okay, so where can you find the script? You can download the script from my GitHub repository in my operations repo. And the script itself is called storage spaces report-titan. Titan's actually a codename project that we run internally for backup recovery and disaster recovery. And so that is why we called it our Titan report, because it was actually based on that project. And so that's where you can grab it. The link is there for you. The recording will be available as well afterwards. So if you missed the link, don't worry. The session will be up today by the end of the day. Okay, so once you've downloaded the report, what do you do with it? So you're going to download the report. You're going to save it to a working folder, something like /post install storage spaces report-titan.ps1. You'll want to edit the report in there to configure the mail-to function. So if you're not using SendGrid, you'll have to configure that accordingly for your infrastructure. Just make sure that that's working. And then the next thing that you'll do is you'll configure a scheduled task. And for this example, I've configured a scheduled task called Daily Storage Spaces Health Check. And we will run this every day at 8 a.m. Let's take a look at some of the settings in the scheduled task that you need to configure in order to get this to run properly. So we'll edit that. We will edit that scheduled task. The first thing that we will end up doing is, these are a little bit out of order here. So let me just see if I can draw here for a sec. Let's just go grab our pen. So the first one that we'll take a look at here is we want to run this whether or not the user is logged on or not. And we want to run this with highest privileges. Typically what I'll do is I'll just create a service account that I'll run this with. And that's normally how I'll set this up. Under your triggers, I just set this as a daily trigger to run every day at 8 a.m. And then the action, we will use a start a program action, and we will use PowerShell as the executable program. And this is the output that you need to type in. So this is the sample of what would go into that line. So we would type PowerShell.exe space-file space open double quotes /post-install /storage spaces report-titan.ps1. And then we would use these following parameters. We would type in the storage node. So this would be one of the nodes of your S2D cluster. Right now, I actually run this on each of my nodes of my storage spaces direct clusters. And the reason for that is I just haven't set up the remoting inside of the script. And interestingly enough, you don't necessarily see all of the events, especially in regards to deduplication, if you're not on the right nodes. So that's why I go grab this off each of the nodes. So in future, I'm working on that. We want to include the events. So the include events will be the generic events, and I can show you where those are inside of the script in a little bit. If you want to include dedupe stats, and if you want to include the REFS debug events, and this REFS debug events, it also includes the data integrity events. So this one here is a definite must that you need to set up. And then if you're running virtual machines on there, you can include VM info. And there's another couple of other parameters inside of there that you could take and that you can use, which are for the replica status and things like that. So it's very customizable. You can do a lot with this. And yeah, so the setup's fairly straightforward. Just go ahead and configure a scheduled task and you should be good to go. All right. So let's take a look at what the output looks like. So this output is from a cluster that's running Server 2019 and is an all-flash NVMe cluster here. And so this one here is quite a large one, actually. We've got several virtual disks that are running on it, so you can see how we're reporting on the storage pools. We can take a look at the size. We can take a look at the size here. We can take a look at the size allocated, percent allocated. And the big thing here is we want to look at our operational status as being okay. We want to make sure that there's no errors in there, and we also want to make sure that things are healthy. Same thing on the virtual disks here. We want to basically just focus on these two columns where everything is okay and healthy. All right, so let me just clear off my rating here. And erase all ink. There we go. The next one is the physical disks. So with the physical disks, we can see the status and the health on the physical disks. And I've pulled as many properties as I can off of the disks themselves. Obviously, different manufacturers are going to give different operational events via PowerShell. So not all of them will report temperature and things like that inside of your array. Big one here that we want to look for is that the operational state and health state is, of course, healthy on all of those drives. If they're not, something is probably wrong. We want to look into that. Now, the next one's a little interesting because the storage spaces driver events can actually throw some false positives. So don't freak out if you're seeing some things happening inside of here. But in this one here, we can see that something happened where we had something that was unresponsive with a particular disk. Could have been on a reboot, or it could have been on something that was going on. What you want to do is you just want to check into these though, because if you're seeing a bunch of errors that are showing up in here, this could be an indicator that, you know, something bad is potentially happening. So the storage space driver events, that's the reason we include those in there. The REFS operational events, I include these because they have some interesting statistics. So we always get an IO latency summary that will show up inside of here, so we can kind of see how things are performing. So that's kind of neat. And then these are the data integrity crash debug events. So now the crash recovery events can occur on a regular basis. But if you take a look at this one here, this one on the 19th, there was a DRT scan and it was completed successfully. And so if you're seeing a bunch of errors or things happening inside of here, this could actually be indicators of some problems. For the making of this video, I didn't actually have a chance to go grab one that was failing, but that data integrity crash debug event log is definitely an important one to take and to look out for. And then there's just admin events. So the admin events are ones that are the ones that will happen on a scheduled basis, and your crash debug events are normally showing that something has happened. And so we want to look into this obviously with this customer because something has happened here. All right. So the next one that we'll take a look at here, and I hope you enjoy this so far, and I hope you get a lot out of that operational report. I know we do. We use it quite a bit. The next one is as-built documentation. Romain Seri has he's a Microsoft MVP, and he has built a fantastic report called Audit-S2D. The link is there to go grab yourself a copy of this. This one's amazing because what it'll do is after you're done the initial build of storage spaces direct, one of the big things that you have to include in your project is as-built configurations and as-built documentation. So we use the Audit-S2D report as an as-built configuration report for all of our customers. And once again, thanks to the community and thanks to Romain for taking and providing this. I've been using this for the last couple of years, if not longer. So here's what some example output looks like. So we can see that I've got a couple Hyper-V nodes. We can see cluster consolidation rate. I can see my virtual adapters. I can see if how they're configured, what switches, what IP addresses, everything's configured for. We can see all of our virtual switches, network adapters, all the configurations that are relevant on the network adapters, storage information. So what does this look like for our cluster storage information? Is our storage in maintenance mode, for example? That's a big one that we've seen over the days. And we can also take a look at cluster information and cluster networks, host information, Hyper-V information, cluster information. You can see if the clusters are patched, if the firewalls are configured properly. And then more importantly, what does your storage spaces direct configuration look like? Now, obviously, this is just a sample configuration that we've got inside of here. Anyways, it gives you a general idea as to what this will look like. Cool. All right, the next one is if you're going to use deduplication for storage spaces direct, one of the big things is you really have to watch your schedules with deduplication. The native schedules that run could overlap with things like backup or replication jobs that are running from things like Veeam. And so what we always want to do is tweak and tune those to make sure that the dedupe jobs are not conflicting. So this script perf tune dedupe.ps1 in my GitHub repo is one that we'll use in production if we are using deduplication in production. All right. A little bit of more free stuff and then we'll wrap this all up. Okay, so the next one is our YouTube channel for MVPDays is pretty cool. We've got over 400 subscribers now on this MVPDays online channel. I just got it linked into my YouTube channel. The link is there. Some cool statistics for you. There's over 100 videos on there from MVPDays Online. The last I checked, we had over 20,000 views and 175,000 minutes watched from this online community, our worldwide MVPDays community. So thank you to all of our subscribers and viewers out there. It's great free training just available for you out there to watch on demand. So a little quick stat, it's almost like 3,000 hours watched. And we've only had the channel up really for a little over the last year and a bit. So that's pretty cool with the uptake that we've seen. The next one is our blog, checkyourlogs.net. We have over 550 posts on there right now. We've got 7 Microsoft Azure and Cloud and Data Center MVPs that blog there now. And we try to get you as much of the relevant information out as possible. Yeah, and so with that, thank you everyone. I really appreciate your time and enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy the rest of the content for MVPDays. Azure Stack and Azure Stack MVPDays. Thanks to all of our presenters. Thanks to our sponsors. Thank you guys and have a great day.